Hey folks, Gwe. Even though we've been in the process of moving and unpacking and trying to get the kids and ourselves settled in this new place, I've still been reading the news. About a week ago, I found an interview, a video clip of an interview with a woman who is a self-proclaimed Trump supporter. But she's also a self-proclaimed anti-vaxxer. She doesn't believe that we should be taking the vaccine. She says that they're dangerous. And as a matter of fact, she goes so far in her interview as to connect them, the vaccines that are being offered to save people's lives, to save us from the horrors that COVID-19 has to offer. She goes so far as to connect them to a parable of Jesus. She says that the vaccines, it's God's way of separating the sheep from the goats. She says that people who take the vaccines will be set apart from people who don't take the vaccines. Now, she gets it a little mixed up because in the parable, and the parable, by the way, is found in the Gospel of Matthew, the 25th chapter. But she gets it mixed up. She says that she's no sheep, she's a goat, because she ain't listening to nobody and she's doing her own thing and she's living her own life and she's enjoying her own freedoms. So she's a goat, she ain't no sheep. And this is one of the first things she gets mixed up, because it's the sheep, actually, the people on the right, that Jesus says the king will turn to and say, I am pleased with you. Come in. Receive your inheritance. It's the ones on the left, the goats, that the king wants nothing to do with. Now, we're not going to get into I know how difficult and how challenging the metaphor of the sheep can be. And so we're not going to go into that aspect of it. But what I really want to come to is this. This woman she doesn't claim to be a theologian. She doesn't claim to be a biblical scholar. She doesn't claim to be a teacher of the word. She doesn't claim to be a pastor or a minister or a priest. But somebody taught her this. Because this application of this parable is used quite often. Those who believe, those who don't believe, those who are Christian, those who are not Christian, those who are Protestant, those who are Catholic, those who are Catholic, those who are Protestant. We have a tendency to use this parable that Jesus offers as a way of showing that there's a difference between me and you and us and them. We are safe and they are cast off. The Lord wants nothing to do with that bunch. But you and I, we're holy, we're good. We're sinless. They, on the other hand, are dirty, sinful, conniving, vile, evil in God's eyes. You pick your moment in history, you'll find a pastor, a minister, a priest who's used this parable to separate people. But this isn't some sort of litmus test about our loyalty. It's not a litmus test about our holiness. As a matter of fact, it has nothing to do with how much or how little sin is in our lives. This parable that Jesus offers in the 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, this parable is directly connected to that passage that you and I all know so well, where it says, come into the kingdom, because when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was homeless, you put a roof over my head. When I was in prison, you visited. When I was sick, you were there. This passage that Jesus is sharing, the story that Jesus is sharing with those around him, it is about creating an understanding that those who have done God's will are separated from those who have chosen not to do God's will. Those who have chosen to live in love and charity and mercy with their neighbors, as we are called to do, are different from those who have chosen not to live that way. This is the dynamic that Jesus offers. This is the separation that Jesus offers. We're not separated because of money. We're not separated because of holiness or piety. We're not separated because I wear a collar and somebody else doesn't. We're not separated because you may go to a Pentecostal church and I go to an Anglican church. We're not separated because of the language we speak, the color of our skin. We're not separated because of the number of curse words we say on any given day. And we certainly aren't going to be separated because of who decided to love their neighbor, to love their family, to love their community by taking a vaccine, and those who haven't. Regardless of how you feel, regardless of your political agenda, your political ideology, regardless of your stance on this particular issue or any other issue, this passage is about showing the world that there is a difference between those who love as Jesus instructs us to love and those who don't. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that creates a divide between us anymore. Doesn't matter where you were baptized. Doesn't matter where you are in the list of clergy. Doesn't matter where your church is or how many people go to it. It doesn't matter how good you are on a daily basis and how you follow all of the laws. None of that stuff matters. Are you living as Jesus instructed you to live by loving your neighbor and loving your God, or not? That's it. That's all we have to worry about. There is nothing else that God is looking down upon us and going, we need to separate them because of this. There is no issue. There is no value. There is no opinion that you and I may have that God cares about. All that matters is whether or not we are living in a loving, compassionate, and merciful way within our community, whether we are giving and providing for our neighbors, for families, friends, and strangers alike, as God calls us to do. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that you and I will always keep this in mind. All that matters, the only thing that matters, is that we are living lovingly towards those around us. This is what separates us from the other. Amen. Numultus.